Hey everyone, today we are going to explore the dark and mysterious nooks and crannies of LinkedIn. But before we do, because I'm going to get immersed in this conversation, I want to remind you that the Marketing Companion is brought to you by Brevo. Now, I am not a techie person. Frankly, I'm too busy to figure that stuff out. I just like stuff to be handed to me. And that's one of the reasons why I like Brevo. It is such a powerful CRM suite for marketing, and it's so easy to use. And you can try it for free. Go to brevo.com/marketing companion. And if you do decide to sign up for the paid version, be sure to use the promo code companion to get 50% off your first 3 months. Now, my go-to guru for all things LinkedIn is Richard Bliss, and it has been for some time. Richard and I have been friends for a while, and he's here because we had sort of the serendipity and good fortune of having another schedule conflict. So our uh, our regular co-host couldn't make it today, so I reached out and I said, be interesting to talk to Richard. If you don't know Richard, follow him right away. If you like LinkedIn or if you hate LinkedIn, Richard is a great guy to follow. So Richard, how you doing, man?
Mark, thrilled to be here, and always enjoy the opportunity to join you in the audience. I see so many familiar faces, so this is great.
Yeah, well, of course, this is a podcast, so no one else can see those familiar faces.
Sorry. Yes, Mark, great to be here. Don't know how things
Yeah,
are
and,
where you're
you know
at.
what? I was thinking of you, of course, because I just got back from the Uprising retreat, and of course, you and I got to spend great. You were at the last two Uprisings, as a matter of fact, and just brought so much value to our group, and so you've got a lot of fans out there. So what I'd like to do is we're gonna kind of delve into some AI impacts on LinkedIn. We're going to delve into some controversies of LinkedIn, some practical ideas. But first, I want to sort of level set because the two big lessons I've had for you, I want to make sure that these are still the lessons that we should still be following. Lesson number one, you recommend to increase your traction and visibility. You should comment on other people's posts about 3 times a day. That's your recommendation. Number two, you've always recommended to me and others that another way to get visibility and traction is when you post content, the real goal is to get conversations. And the number of comments you get in the first hour or so, then if you can get, some comments going, then LinkedIn will like expose your content to others. And if you get more conversations, then it will actually send your content into open waters, right? Outside of your audience, which I see happen to me occasionally. So is that still a good, sound strategy for LinkedIn?
Absolutely, more than
Okay,
any.
great.
I tell people, just look, if you want to, somebody starting a new business, begin commenting on the customers or the potential customer market. Add
Yeah.
value. Teach. Mark, I'm here at an event and I met a dentist last night. And she's like, well, I'm not really active on LinkedIn. And then she went on to begin to teach to me about litmus tests and acid in your mouth. And I stopped her and I reached out and grabbed her and said, that's a perfect LinkedIn post. Go ahead and share your expertise, teach us, and go comment on other people. So yes,
I
it
mean,
continues
did you
to be.
did you literally like grab her?
Uh, that
Seems
sounds
that's a little
that sounds
spooky to me.
that sounds bad. But I
Yeah.
reached out and gently held both of her arms and stopped her from spieling to me about how I needed to change my dental habits and said that would be a really good LinkedIn post. But
There you
it's
go.
all about commenting and engaging with other people's conversations, showing interest first, and then they'll start to show interest back. It continues to be the number one best strategy for pursuing LinkedIn activity.
Okay. So good. So that's great because that's sort of been my
Yep.
strategy, and I know a lot of people who have attended your talk in Rise and in the Uprising. I know that they've been following that strategy as well. All right, now let's get into some of LinkedIn's dirty laundry. Let's talk about these things that are called pods because look, this strategy that you talk about, creating these conversations, other people are catching on to this too, right? So they've created these, little gangs of people that will leave comments on every post. And it's so obvious and it's so annoying. So what's your take on that?
So let's clarify here. They're no longer little. That's
Oh,
part of it.
yeah. Yeah.
And so you're Uprising. That's a group of us that occasionally we let each other know when we engage and comment on each other's. That's not
Uh,
really a pod under the definition,
yeah.
kind of, but we all know each other and there's a reason for us to engage with each other's content.
Yeah, well, we're interested and
We're a
we have like
community.
an
We're a
authentic
community.
friendship. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that looks like a pod. But when I talk about pods, what's happening out there, and it's being driven a lot by AI now, but these are artificial groups. Oftentimes you pay money to belong to, and
Mm,
then you will dump your content into this pod. Oftentimes it's using WhatsApp or some kind of joint communication tool to push it out there. And now
mm,
people you don't know who have nothing to do with your industry are leaving these comments. Now it's been going on for quite some time. And the influencers out there on LinkedIn have been using it. And then they kind of try to deny it. And I have a small story about that. But now what's happened is that AI has gotten involved. So a person will make a post, they'll throw it into the pod, and the pod now are now running AI comments. So the AI will create a comment for the pod members to post automatically. You'll see a post go live, and within 5 minutes, it'll have 500 comments. Well, that's almost impossible on LinkedIn, but it's being driven by these AI tools. And so, yes, you can spot them. If you go and look at the comments, you'll see that it's AI. They're getting pretty sophisticated, but you can see the pattern of the way it answers the.
mm.
And so, it first of all, this is against the terms of service of LinkedIn, blatantly against the terms of service. And there's a discussion about how LinkedIn's adjusting that. We're starting to see some of this happen. But I'll give you a short story. A woman reached out to me recently asking for my help on LinkedIn. And I had to admit that she was doing everything right, commenting and engaging, and everything seemed to be working for her, although she was doing it. But I went and looked and I discovered over her last 10 posts, every post had 50 comments plus or minus 4.
Oh, I saw you post about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
52, 49. And she was posting every day. And every day she got 50 comments plus or minus 4. And so I then started to look at those comments and they look legit. But I texted her back and said, I really don't think I can help you. By the way, it appears that you might be using a pod to generate some of your content. Are you doing that? And I did it in a really nice way.
Yeah.
I have never heard back from her again.
Mm,
She absolutely ghosted me. And it was like, that would
yeah.
probably. And so we're seeing this. And so LinkedIn's fighting back.
So what how are they doing that with AI or
No, they're doing it and we're all suffering for it. The algorithm is now decreasing the impact of comments on posts.
oh my.
And so now most of your listeners are not going to experience this.
Hmm.
You're not going to, because we're talking now because we've got a lot of influencer out there who are really gaming the system and they're getting a million impressions on their posts. Well, LinkedIn's algorithm is now driving down that reach. We're starting to see it. Especially my clients who are maybe you get 3,000 impressions on your posts. Now you're getting 2,500. Maybe you're getting 2,400. You're seeing this drop and you're still getting the same amount of engagement. So what LinkedIn's algorithm is doing is trying to suppress the viral reach of content based on gaming the system and particularly these pods. That's what you're seeing happen.
Well, I think the lesson here is, early in my days in this field of digital marketing, there were lots of we call it black hat schemes. I don't know if that's a, common term today, but
White text on background
no, 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 no. Oh,
right?
I know what. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay,
Yeah, the
where you're
SEO.
hiding keywords and stuff. Right, right,
Yeah.
right. And I remember when, I was in the corporate world and then, I started my own company, got into this world, and I was absolutely aghast at very reputable people and reputable companies who were embracing these things. And I was at a conference one time, and this guy that led this big, big SEO and content company got up and described how they were gaming the system with all this black hat stuff. What they were doing is they were hiring people who were like homebound, like,
Yeah.
people who were either elderly or maybe they were, um, they were disadvantaged in some way. And they created these fake personas and created these fake accounts, and they were like the early pods, right?
And what you're
And
seeing them down to is they're using third world countries. They're using third world
yeah,
countries. These are legitimate people who are
yeah,
logging in and they're part
yeah,
of a pod. And you're seeing it come out of Vietnam. You're seeing it come out of Thailand. You're seeing it come out of the Philippines. And these are real people.
yeah,
And they're making real, I call them fake comments, but they're real comments.
yeah.
But that's what's happening is that it has gone to an industrial level now,
Wow,
particularly with
wow,
AI.
yeah. And I think my view then is especially true now that if you're going to engage in any practice that is that harms or deteriorates the effectiveness of these platforms, you are going to lose.
Yep.
Just like in the black hat days of SEO, Google went after it. Google, blacklisted entire organizations who were engaging in some of these practices. And it's just a matter of time before, it
And I'm
sounds
going
like
to,
LinkedIn is
it's
starting that.
happening. So
That's happening.
I'm going to warn anybody who's using any kind of browser based or any kind of LinkedIn third party tool to somehow comment for you or engage or scrape. LinkedIn is starting to go after those. And I'm not going to name any names. There's some very common names that people are like, well, I use this. And
Mm,
LinkedIn's now watching what are they called?
like the
The
extension.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Neither one of us can think about it. Yes, they're looking at your browser extensions to see which tools you're using, thereby flagging your account. And so more and more people are starting to get in trouble because they're using these automation tools, scheduling tools that are starting to get in the way. So you got to be really careful of how you're using those.
Well, let's get into that a little bit more because you mentioned AI generated content and comments, and boy, I mean, I just can't stand it. It is just so annoying. And
So there's some good news and there's some not so good news. The not so good news is it's flooding the platform.
yes,
The
for
good
sure.
news is you can do something about it. And what you can do about it is it only takes about a week for you to train the algorithm of what you want to see and what you don't want to see.
Mm,
So the most of the time, if you're seeing AI generated content in your feed,
yeah.
it's because members of your first degree network are interacting with that content. What you can do is one, don't interact with it, and two, limit your interaction with those people who are interacting with it. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it, for example, several of my network are LinkedIn gurus around the world. Well, they've been complaining about stuff that I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing it at all. And one reason is because I've completely stopped engaging with any of their content because they're tied into all of this other stuff. I don't want to see any of that.
Yeah.
So each of us have the ability to train the algorithm of what we want to see in our feed by purposefully beginning to like and comment on specific things. The algorithm, I mean, you've got a lot of followers, I've got a lot of followers. The algorithm isn't going to reach down into the well of our followers and start showing us random content. It's going to be the most recent last 30 days. That's what we're going to start to see. If you want to, you don't want to see that stuff anymore, then make sure you begin to disengage with the audience that's generating that kind of content.
What about comments? Because I mean, I even have like I've got, a friend now who is obviously using automated some sort of automation to respond to comments. And and I'll get comments, like that because usually it's like somehow like they read the content, they summarize the content, and then they ask a question that's sort of like, offbeat. So, I mean, there's sort of a pattern to some of this. And one of the comments recently to me was something like, oh, what is your biggest challenge with LinkedIn? And I responded, I said, my biggest challenge is, taking AI generated comments like this one seriously or something. It's just like, I just can't stand it. I mean, I would say probably somewhere around 15-20% of the comments I get on my posts now are just AI generated. I mean, LinkedIn has got to go after that too, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do. And there's twofold. One is there's the technology side, and the other one is the human side. As we continue to avoid rewarding those, so your response to that comment rewarded it.
Yeah.
You validated the comment.
Uh,
So when people say, what about all this? Will LinkedIn stop AI generated content? And I'm like, probably, unless you stop interacting with AI generated content, because that's what LinkedIn's goal is right? Content on their platform that you find interesting enough to interact with in a conversation. That actually means whether it's AI generated or not. If
yeah.
you show interest and engage in the conversation, boop, you've just given a signal that, hey, I like this. So while it was a little bit of tongue in cheek and you had some fun with it, you kind of did reward that behavior. Sorry.
Yikes.
Sorry about that
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, let's flip the script a little
Sure.
bit. Is there any um useful, legitimate uses for AI that you're
Absolutely.
deploying right now?
Absolutely. One of them, I'm going to sidestep here a little bit. Collaborative articles. Collaborative articles came out earlier this year. They are AI generated topics
Yeah.
by LinkedIn, and it
Mhm.
uses AI to generate it. So I like to call them themes and topics. So they'll give you an overall theme: marketing, right?
Yeah.
Leadership, um, dental hygiene, whatever the topic is.
Hmm.
And they're generated by AI. And then underneath, they'll have about 5 or 6 topics specific about marketing. Um, and then what they'll do, and everybody who's listening in has been reached out by LinkedIn with a message that says something to the effect of, you're one of the few people who have some expertise in this area. Would you like to comment on this collaborative article?
You mean it's not just me?
Well, it is just you,
I
Mark.
thought I was special.
You are special. But what's happened is everybody's not getting that invitation you got,
Yeah.
right? It's being sent to because the algorithm is watching what you write about, who you write to, who engages with your content. And then it's making an assessment that you must be pretty smart on this topic. Would you mind providing some input on this? Now, you're going to hear the gurus out there screaming that don't do it. Don't be involved. You're feeding the algorithm, right? It's stealing all our knowledge. And I'm like, no. Well, yes, but no. You're feeding the algorithm in a very specific way that says when it comes to marketing content about community, Mark Schaefer is the leading expert. Why? Because look at the content he has taught us through collaborative articles as he's responded. The collaborative articles ask you specific questions,
Yeah.
unlike other content on LinkedIn, that gives us permission to blatantly talk about our expertise in a specific area. You almost never get to do that on LinkedIn. You're leaving something, humble bragging or whatever. These collaborative articles instead are like, here's the problem. Do you have a solution? And you get to nail it. And then it takes that and pushes that out to people who are interested in that topic, not your
Right.
network. People are in
Hmm.
your, I mean, I did one the other day. It was about algorithm changes within social media platforms. It said, you seem to be an expert on this one. I'm like, oh, I'll say something. I had 2,500 people see that were not in my network because the algorithm pushed that out to the people who found that topic interesting. This is why collaborative articles, while AI driven, and that's where people are kind of getting hung up on it. And it's AI learning, but it's learning about you. And now when people search for a subject matter expert, you're going to bubble to the top because you've already been training the algorithm about what you know.
I did a few of those, I guess earlier this year. I think it was based on your recommendation, actually.
Yep.
I started to dive into this and had some fun with it because a lot of the questions were really, easy for me to answer, but I could add really legitimate value. But what I've seen is that a lot of the topics are just so dumb now. I mean, they're
But you
reaching.
don't, but it's just, yeah, it's just AI. AI is just generating them. You
Yeah.
don't have to respond to those topics. Go find the ones.
Well, yeah, yeah. I
There's
haven't found
thousands of them.
any. Yeah. Now the other thing is, did they take away the top voice badges or something?
Yeah.
I
So
hadn't been paying attention to that.
yes. And so I found this interesting because I have been arguing since day one that
Uh,
those badges were a bonus. It was a gold star. It,
yeah.
but so many who are pursuing the wrong metrics, and the metrics they're pursuing are labels of I'm an authority. Look, LinkedIn told me it was
Yeah.
the gold. They took as of October 8th, they were discontinued.
Okay.
But I saw all of these gurus screaming that now it's the collaborative articles are worthless. And I'm
Uh,
like, what do you mean they're worthless? That was just a bonus that you got
yeah.
a gold star that said
Right.
you were an expert. Instead, you would have the algorithm know you're an expert. And so when people are looking for that expertise, it's going to
Yeah.
put that. And that's what you're seeing the change is that LinkedIn's moving further and further away from keyword matching to context matching. And they're using AI to do that. So if you're talking about a topic, you don't have to use certain keywords for it to figure out that you're talking
Hmm.
about this.
Oh,
And so this is one of the changes. And this again is
right.
why collaborative articles continue to be so powerful for your own personal branding. And the comments and people are like, yeah, but they're random. They're not that good. And they're just blah. Yeah. Those go find the ones that are specific to what you want people to know you about. And this is an opportunity for you just to brag. I mean, literally brag because LinkedIn
Yeah.
asked you to brag.
Hmm.
Yeah, there we
All
go.
right. Well, maybe I'll go back. Maybe I'll dive back in, with all the extra time that I
Sure, right?
have.
Sure. It
But I
can be
mean,
one of those.
they're not that hard to answer, really. I mean,
No.
yeah.
And it can be one of the 3 comments you want to make during the day that I
Yeah.
recommend.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So it's 2 for 1 LinkedIn value. Now, here's another topic that has I don't know, it's kind of got my head spinning. And so LinkedIn seems to be emphasizing video. Now, in past conversations you and I had, you just, slammed it. You just said, video does not work. I know that's not intuitive, but it doesn't create conversations, which it doesn't. If you pose a question in text or something, it sort of creates conversations. But video doesn't really, get that many comments. So like what is going on? I mean, help me read the tea leaves here.
Okay. I guess I got to be more careful because I'm starting to sound like a Cassandra where I'm just like always negative Nelly on this idea of videos. One, I love videos. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But it's not the best way to communicate information to someone through video unless it's like a YouTube video where I need to figure out how to fix my dishwasher. I go to the YouTube video step by step. I pause, I do it, I pause, I do it. These videos that are popping up, like reels that are popping up on our mobile devices, it's a new feature that was added this year. Not everybody has it. It's reached, I would say, about 90% of the audience, though, now. You just open it up. There it is. It's a little video button, and it's reels, just like on all the other social tools. But it's 15 to 30 seconds. And okay, there was something interesting there. How do I capture that information? How do I respond to it? What do I do with that? I can't record it. I can't write it down. I could get a piece of paper, turn it into analog, write it down, and try to remember to go back, whatever that video, and then it's going to go to the next one immediately. We're caught up in this TikTok type environment, but this isn't TikTok. This is now from a branding standpoint. I saw this morning or last night. I inadvertently hit the button and I saw people I knew. I'm like, oh, hey, do I remember anything they said? No, not a thing, because as soon as it was done, it went to another 15-second video and another one and another one. And they're all the same. Here are 3 ways that you can solve your clogged drain. Here are 3 ways that, I mean, every single one of them is that. My point here is that while video is a great branding tool, it's not a great tool to communicate information, particularly through a mobile device that you want people to know or do. They'll see you, but they probably won't be able to act on what you've shared or said. So from a branding standpoint, it can work. But from a pure effectiveness. And so the research is showing that, yeah, video has, especially with this new tool, but engagement is almost near zero.
Yeah.
The audience
So
is seeing it,
yeah.
but they're
So
not doing anything with it.
let's unpack that a little bit because what you're saying is, so I mean, I've seen some nice videos. In fact, I attended an excellent streaming video this morning. I just happened to be on LinkedIn, and it was a friend of mine, interviewing a really cool guy that I knew. I said, "Oh, that's kind of interesting," and it was very, very good. It was kind of ephemeral because then it's gone.
It's
So
gone.
from a branding standpoint, I like the idea of getting out there with something different, maybe something entertaining. Um, but is it going to give you brand traction inside of LinkedIn? It sounds like you're saying no.
But, and let's be clear, I am now speaking from a very strong opinion.
Okay.
I'm not speaking from a data-driven, only strong opinion. And I'm a strong believer, have been for years, about video,
Mhm.
except the goal of LinkedIn is to drive conversation. Right now, they're doing a Me Too, sorry, wrong hashtag. They're doing a copycat approach to video. Everybody else is doing, hey, we got to do it.
Yeah.
But again, my clients aren't watching my videos. Well, if I made more videos, they probably might be watching them. But my point here is that that's not where they're going to find out information, actionable information from me. Now we'll see if they start to turn it so that I can have a video feed that it's just my
Mhm.
videos that people can go to, which you kind of, okay, maybe that starts to happen. But some people are more comfortable with videos and they like making videos and it makes them feel good to see that they're on video. But I'm still, and Mark, you and I have 20 years in marketing as a CMO. While video was helpful, it didn't convey information that my clients could act on. And that's
Mhm.
always, and for anybody who's ever listened to me speak, they know that I really always focus on what can I do with what you just told me. And a video is really hard to do that. I love video. I'm just going to say that. I want that to be the quote from this podcast. I love video.
No, no, no. The quote is going to be, "I love video, but."
Yeah,
Well, and I tend to agree. I think, there's so much that we can do with video. And if you're trying, like from a personal branding standpoint, if you're trying to show your face and show your heart and your passion, I mean, there's no better way to do it.
yep,
So I can kind of see that, but I'm like you. It's hard to act on it. It's hard to internalize it, I
yeah,
guess. So
yeah. And it
let,
has to be a lot of repetition.
yeah, let's finish up with one final question. There's always been a puzzle to me, and maybe, it's hard to have insight on this, but again, maybe you have a strong opinion.
Sure.
So what I've wondered about LinkedIn's success within Microsoft. So, it seems like, Microsoft, they bought LinkedIn, and obviously over the last at least 2 years, there's been a huge emphasis on content, on original content, on conversations, on collaborative content. I mean, almost every innovation LinkedIn comes up with, it has something to do with creating content and creating conversations. Has that helped? Is it making money within Microsoft? I mean, is it a platform we can
Well,
rely on in the long term?
yeah, you're asking several questions here that have different answers.
Okay.
Okay, so let's take a look at LinkedIn. So LinkedIn.com is the .com brand. Lynda.com was acquired by LinkedIn about 10, 12 years ago. That's a training company based out of California, Southern
Mhm,
California, Santa Barbara area.
mhm.
That's where LinkedIn Learning got morphed into. Okay. Third-party company got acquired. LinkedIn Sales Navigator, another third-party company that got acquired. LinkedIn Recruiter, again, kind of a third-party development. LinkedIn Sales Navigator and LinkedIn Recruiter are not part of the P&L of LinkedIn.com.
Oh, you're kidding.
No. And
Wow.
those two organizations don't even, I got to be careful whoever's listening to this, but they really don't talk to each other.
Mm.
It reminds me of the old days at Microsoft when I was dealing with email. The Microsoft Exchange team and the Microsoft Office team didn't talk to each other, and they fought over Outlook
Yeah.
because when the early days of Office, they had their own email reader to read email from as many different email platforms as possible. But the Exchange team had their own email client for Exchange. And the two were fighting all the time because one wanted to connect to everybody and one didn't want to connect to anybody. And then Outlook that we know today became standard across. I think Bill Gates stepped in finally and stopped it. The point here is that we're seeing something kind of similar at LinkedIn.
Mm.
What we see on the LinkedIn platform is being driven by a fraction of revenue that's being generated by LinkedIn, the entity. 80% of LinkedIn's revenue comes from Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Premium, but LinkedIn Recruiter. Some of my clients spend more than $1 million a year on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. That's where the revenue is coming from.
Yeah.
So when you talk about Microsoft owning LinkedIn,
Yeah.
now you've got to think about, okay, the LinkedIn platform itself has always been kind of a job seeking, connecting electronic Rolodex. For your listeners who are under 35, they'll have to Google that word, Rolodex. Okay. But what we've got then is, where is the money? So you're starting to see more and more, particularly this year, ads start to show up in your LinkedIn feed. But it's still a fraction. 20% of LinkedIn's revenue comes from those ads. The
Well,
rest
thanks
of
for
it,
that. Yeah, thanks for that clarity because it seems weird because you can't have Navigator without LinkedIn. It's just kind of
right,
weird that it's not
but it's
integrated.
not tied together. And this is why you have two messaging platforms,
Yeah,
LinkedIn Messaging and LinkedIn
yeah,
Sales Navigator Mess. This is what's going on. So when you talk about Microsoft owning it,
yeah.
one, they've done a great job. I always said Microsoft always eats their young. Whenever they've acquired any kind of new technology, they've always stripped away all branding and slapped the MS Microsoft label and killed it.
Mm,
This time they didn't. And
mhm.
LinkedIn has continued to grow. And so I like Microsoft's involvement because it means that LinkedIn continues to stay focused on Microsoft's customers who
Mhm.
tend to be the business world.
Right.
And that means LinkedIn continues to bring value from the business standpoint. TikTok, a little bit. Instagram, not really. Facebook, no, we've lost that. And Twitter, whatever we call it, it's lost. So
Yeah.
that's where that kind of comes from. I don't know if I answered the question, but it gives some insights.
No, no, that's very, very helpful. And yeah, it's because you want LinkedIn to thrive. But my view uh, over the last few years is it's kind of been like a stepchild. Like Microsoft has been trying to figure out, how to make money. And the beautiful thing about LinkedIn is that most of the revenue, it's not coming from ads.
It's not
And
coming from ads.
it's not coming from ads. And I mean that's healthy. Because
Yes.
ad-driven content is eyeball-driven content, which usually means it's going to be divisive and hate and polarizing because that's what drives eyeballs. And we don't see that on LinkedIn.
I mean, think about our streaming services versus our broadcast services, where the
Mhm,
news has become almost worthless because it's all entertainment news,
mhm.
right? Where they're trying to, if it bleeds, it leads kind of concept. And yet
Yes.
I can watch content on a documentary or something on my streaming service that is geared towards me being happy that I'll continue to pay them to give me that content versus being distracted and interrupted because I'm trying to watch something on the broadcast. Microsoft's involvement continues to make LinkedIn a side show. Well, that's not the right word. It's not a social media platform the way we think of Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, Richard, thanks so much for very helpful insights. I think this will be just so valuable to so many people who are, trying to find their way on LinkedIn. So, thanks so much, and thanks everyone for listening. We always appreciate you being here with us. And if you think about it, whatever platform you're on, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a review and let us know what you think. Until next time. This is Mark Schaefer, and we'll see you on the Marketing Companion.